Just getting a little warmed up.
All right, you got this.
It's been a while.
This is gonna get all the sensitive people wound up.
There we go, boy.
Don't do it, Kyle.
This takes me back to my high school days.
Don't do it.
All right, that's all I got.
That's all you got?
That's all I got. Whew.
That feel good?
What do you think? What do you think that was? 450, 500?
Oh, at least.
Easy.
At least.
It's good to know I still got it. It's at least 1,000-pound shoulder shrug.
Oh,
right there.
at least.
Fuck yeah.
He gets crushed. He gets crushed. You know, what are we going to do about
Crazy
it?
man. Evil Knievel, somebody would say. Don't know how he does it. Fearless. Alright, so anyway, welcome back everybody. We're back at it on the Datsun today. So what we're going to try to dig into today is finally getting this battery tray out of the car, getting the frame rail out of the car. I know for those of you that watched the last video, you may have saw that we finally got some patch panels for the Datsun. Just keep it rolling. So for those of you that have seen our last video, don't swear, don't swear.
I'm sorry, it's just so...
Don't go. So for those of you that may have seen our last video, you would have seen that we finally got some patch panels here. We got a battery tray area and a front frame rail for the Datsun. We talked about it a little bit. We got these panels from a company called KF Vintage JDM. As far as we could tell, the quality of these panels is just so far greater than any other company that we've done research on. I have gotten one other panel from what is it, Z-Car Depot. It's not bad, but it just doesn't even seem to compare to the quality of these. So some of the things that I wanted to mention are, and I think a lot of companies do this, but they beef up the metal gauge a little bit. I think most of the panels on the Datsun are originally a 20 gauge steel. This piece right here is 18 gauge. And then on some of the more structural parts like frame rails and whatnot, they beef them up a little bit more to 16 gauge, which is super nice. I mean, you can't really complain about that at all. And as you can see, they come pre-primed. Pretty sure it's a weld-through primer, which is really nice. It saves a lot of work. And honestly, they're probably priced about the same as any other part on any other site. And one thing that I wanted to mention specifically about the battery tray area is just how much more surface area that you actually get. I was actually looking at the patch panel from Z-Car Depot, and all you get for 150 bucks, all you get is just this little rounded elbow section where the battery actually
And it
sits.
isn't even rounded, it's like square.
Yeah, it's I don't even think it's a true fit. Just something close to get the job done. From what I've researched, what KF Vintage does is they track down cars in good condition, they cut out the piece, and they actually make a true die set for these, so they can make them accurately every time. And obviously, they're exact replicas of the cars. And not only do they make parts for Datsuns, mainly the 240Z, but they make stuff for, I think, Celica, might be a classic Corolla on there as well. I can't remember. But we'll put the links to all their stuff down in the description, so you guys can go check these guys out. I had a hard time finding them. I was researching panels for weeks and weeks, and you know, all I could find was the main ones like Z-Car Depot, Z-Car Store, that kind of stuff. And I actually ended up talking to another guy on Instagram, and he referred me to these guys. That's how I found them, but it took a while to come across them. So I feel like a lot of people don't know about them, but more people should, because they make a great product, and it makes the job a lot easier for the people like us. So definitely check them out when you get a chance. All right, so we're gonna get started here. Some of the things that we still have left to do before getting the panels in place is obviously removing the old ones. A ton of spot welds to drill out. We've got to go all along the bottom of the frame rail here. We still have some small brackets and whatnot to get off in here. I think in order to get the battery tray panel out, we're gonna have to take off a portion of this upper section to access some of the spot welding back here, or be able to cut along the top. And once that's out, I think we can start working on the frame rail. We need to get the torsion bar clip off of here. Just a few spot welds on the side here and underneath, I believe. And then we'll have to disconnect the front frame rail from the rear frame rail. Jesus, I can't talk this morning.
Frame wheel.
Frame wheel.
Frame wheel.
Sound like a 3-year-old little boy. So we need to separate the two frame rails. How's that? Does that sound better?
It's a little better.
Good.
Flame. The flame. The flame. The flame. The flame. The
Flame wheel.
The flame.
The flame wheel.
The flame.
Sound like a 3-year-old little boy. Flame wheel.
How's that? Does that sound better? It's a little better. Good.
Sound like a 3-year-old little boy.
The flame. The flame. The flame.
The flame.
A few spot welds there, and then we can take that out. We haven't fully decided how we're going to go about keeping things set to accurate measurements. I think we're going to try to come up with some sort of a jig, possibly. We haven't decided yet, where we can tack to that frame rail, bring it across here, so when we're setting the new one in, we can place it in accurately. I think we're definitely going to keep the subframe mounted to that side at least, and keep it across here, so when we do put the new frame rail in, we can line. There's 2 bolts on this side that actually attach to the forward frame rail here, so we can use this subframe to somewhat line that rail up when we're putting it back in place, make sure our holes are aligned properly. And that's pretty much it. Just going to be a bunch of drilling and cutting for the afternoon, and once we get that stuff out of there, I think we'll have a better idea at what we're looking at to get these new pieces in. So let's get to it. So as you guys can see, we have finished getting these lower spot welds for the battery tray area taken out. We've also drilled out all the spot welds along the top part of the tray right here. We stopped drilling the welds up to this point because what we're going to do is we're going to take an angle grinder and we're going to cut right down this seam here, so that we can place the tray in, see how it fits, and if we need to take any extra meat off, we can after the fact. official.
How does that feel?
Tinfoil has been removed from the car. Crazy. Well, that feels good to have that out of the way. So now, we should be able to take the patch panel and at least lay that somewhat into place, get an idea of where all the edges are actually going to fit, and then we can cut out whatever material that we need to so that it fits properly. Before we even get to that point, we've still got quite a bit of work to do on the firewall. We still need to get the frame rail out and continue on down this way. So,
hit it, boss. Hopefully this fucker don't drop down.
That's all she wrote there.
Is it? Is that all she wrote?
That's all she wrote. So we got a good portion of the frame rail out of the way. This will make it a lot easier for us to remove the rest of this. Some of the spot welds are in really complicated areas and we can't quite fit the drill in there. But that's why we decided to cut this out. Obviously we're going to save this torsion bar gusset. There's a lot of spot weld drilling to do on that, but we can deal with that later. So as you can see, we put a jack in place right here at the bottom of the subframe. The reason that we did that is because we've decided that we're going to try to use this subframe as our jig to be able to line the new frame rail up. So we put that in place so that this wouldn't drop once we cut this section out. And of course, we took a bunch of measurements before even cutting into anything so that we can align things properly if this allows for too much slop. But I think it should get us in the right area, and then we can fine-tune things before we start tack welding stuff in. But in the meantime, we still got the rest of this to cut out, and we've got that portion to get off. I'm actually a little bit impressed at how thick the original frame rail metal is.
Oh yeah?
It probably is actually 16 gauge. Cool. Frame rail's officially out. Battery tray panel is officially out. Hopefully we measured everything correctly enough. But before we even get started on that stuff, we do need to figure out what we're going to do with this firewall. So we briefly talked over what we're going to do. I think we're going to mock up a pretty simple piece of sheet metal. Get this bend here. We're going to try to get it down as close to the bottom of the floor pans as we can. We're not going to worry too much about these die presses here. We're kind of back and forth whether or not we want to try to recreate these or maybe do some nice custom bead rolls instead. That would be a lot easier. But for now, I think we're just going to get the general shape tacked into place here. And then if we want to do something fancy here later on, we can just repatch this spot. So once we get this firewall taken care of, we can start figuring out how we're going to tack the frame rail back on. We still do need to remove this small section, which should only take a few minutes. But we'll get that out of the way, and hopefully we can start working on that. Shouldn't take too long to remove this part. Look at this. Alright guys, she's railless. Man, definitely probably gonna rebuild the entire car. For sure.
Pretty much.
The deeper we dig, the worse it gets. The further we get, the further behind we fall. But it's actually pretty fun. So.
Almost like a glove. Okay, yeah, I see. So it is, yeah. It's just got to go over that way a little bit more. So we will have to trim some more.
There we go. Up a little high too.
See how far it's got to go to the firewall though?
Yeah, the more we keep bringing it in, the more I see that. Turning back now, huh?
Nope.
So the plan here, right now what he's marking is the little flange piece that we're going to bend at a 90 so that we can tack weld that to the rest of the car. This mark here is where we're going to start the actual curve where the firewall starts to bend down into the floor pans. These are rough measurements, but should allow us to kind of work the metal into what we want it to be. Almost looks like he knows what he's doing, huh?
I'm just more confident when it's not my project. So if I fuck it up,
Yeah,
it's not mine.
Looks good.
The reason why we use wood is it actually has a softer edge to it, so it makes it more round instead of a hard 90-degree edge.
For sure. No, for sure, man. I can tell you've done this before. Just by the way you're throwing that hammer around.
See? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Looks good.
That's almost right on the fucking line.
Some little warpage, but we won't worry.
There's no warpage.
We won't worry too
Barely
much.
any fucking.
That's okay.
You just leave it to me. Big brother will take care of you.
Alright guys, so as you can see, we got a little ahead of ourselves. So we got the 90-degree angle finished up to the way that we wanted it to be. Next thing we did was we got this curvature put into the panel here. We took a bunch of measurements. The way that we actually did this, we didn't have a lot lying around, but I actually took a piece of PVC pipe, marked where the curve started and ended, and just kind of used the PVC pipe to sort of bend this around and just kept working it. It was just trial and error until we got the curve pretty close to the original one. We're pretty happy with the way that it came out. We did hammer and dolly a few sections just to clean it up a little bit, but mostly it was just rolling on that PVC pipe. It worked pretty well. So we've got it all put into place here. We're getting ready to tack weld it in. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use a method from another YouTuber, actually, we learned this from. We're putting the panel, we're lapping the panel over some of the existing metal instead of cutting the hole out first. And what we're gonna do is take an angle grinder and we're actually gonna cut across these edges at, you know, say a 45-degree angle. So when we do that, once we take the panel off after the cut, the final cut panel will actually, it will fall right into place on the existing metal of the firewall. It makes things a lot easier for welding, and it also makes it a lot easier to actually hold the panel in place, because it's actually, you're gonna have something to press this up against. Once we get it cut out, you'll have a better idea of what we mean. We're gonna tack weld this in and get to it.
So this is what it looks like tacked into place. That's all we need, just a few. Actually, looks like a legit panel now. That's what it looks like on this side. This right here is gonna get replaced at some point, so we're just using this as a guideline for this lip right here. So we're not gonna worry about that at the moment. But now we're gonna cut everything, cut the panel into place, and then weld it as we go along. It's not plugged in.
Oh, guess that's a problem, huh?
Huh?
You need power?
Yeah.
Oh. Weird. So as you guys can see, you probably kind of better understand what we were talking about. This isn't too bad for the first time ever doing it. But this panel is actually sitting almost perfectly flush with the existing sheet metal in the car. So by doing that, it allowed us to not have to clamp this thing, use magnets, whatever, to try to hold everything in place while we tack it. It's already tacked, which also helps with any sort of heat warping or anything like that. This thing is really solidly held in place. You don't really have to worry about it. You just do a couple inches at a time, You cut, press it in so it's flush, and you tack it. You just do that all the way around until the whole thing's done. All right, guys, so this is the result of the method that we talked about earlier. Cutting all around this at an angle and pushing it in and tacking it in inch by inch. So we've done that around this entire panel. Everything is sitting pretty flush. Everything's locked in really nice. So the next step is obviously going to be to continue around that with spot welds until everything's filled in all nice. And then we'll grind all those welds down. This will look like one solid piece of sheet metal. We're pretty happy with the way that it came out. It took the whole day. I'm not going to say it was easy, but super happy with it. So the next thing is testing the fit of these panels. Look at that.
Not bad for first time around. Obviously these holes right here match up perfectly. This has been in the same place the whole time. And then, I mean, this is pretty damn near perfect. Of course, we'll measure from the points that we originally measured from the old one and make sure that they're all in the exact spots, but I'm pretty happy with that. I know you are.
No, I think it looks great. We've been cranking all day to get it to look like this. So,
and mind you, we've never done anything like this before. This is legit our first panel.
Yeah.
That is legit. I shouldn't say.
Can't complain too much. What is it, Chris?
Legit.
So legit.
So not bad for our first panel. We're really happy with it. You know, some people in the beginning said to, you know, cut your losses. We bit off more than we could chew. Part it out and get something that's a lot less rust and a lot less work. But that's what weak-minded, lazy people always say. So, I think it's going to turn out good.